So you're thinking about buying a house in Phoenix, Arizona in 2025, more specifically the West Valley. Well, if you didn't know, we're in a buyer's market. And if you didn't know, now you know. If that's you, then you need to be careful. Making the wrong choice in this market can cost you tens of thousands of dollars or lock into a property that is almost impossible to sell. I've lived and I've worked in the Phoenix real estate market long enough to see people make this mistake over and over again, especially people relocating or people that are first-time home buyers. I'm going to break down the 10 houses here in Arizona that you should avoid at all costs. Whether you're looking to buy in Buckeye, Surprise, Avondale, Goodyear, some of these homes are financial nightmares. Like, for example, buying a fixer-upper that you think you can fix up, and then you start finding all these repairs that will cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Others are just lifestyle deal breakers, like living out in the desert away from anything fun. And unfortunately, some of them you won't notice until it's too late. So as a realtor, I feel like it's my personal responsibility to warn you about these financial traps, let you know what red flags to see before it's too late and you've already signed a contract. And if you're serious about buying here in Phoenix, Arizona, or moving from out of town, please click on the link below. I'll make sure you find the right community and the right property for you and your family. All right, guys, so let's go over number one, and that is model homes and brand new communities. Yes, I know they're beautiful. They have every single upgrade. Problem that I see with that is that usually they get built pretty quickly because they want to be able to show the floor plans that they have in that community. So a lot of times they might cut some corners. They might not use the best material. And also a lot of those upgrades are baked into the price. So even though they give you a discount, you can be overpaying for some of these homes. So I actually met a client once. They got every single upgrade. Well, maybe not every single upgrade, but got tons of upgrades, around 100,000 in upgrades. And to be honest, it took around 10 years for that equity to increase to where his loan was. That means it took him so long to actually gain any kind of equity because he overpaid for a lot of those upgrades. All right, guys, and number two is buying the nicest house in the worst neighborhood. Now, here in the west side of Phoenix, there's a couple neighborhoods that have a little bit of higher crime than most other parts of the valley. Now, in the last couple years, you saw a lot of investors come in and buy a lot of these, houses in bad communities and fix them up, made them look beautiful. Now, at one point, you were buying a pretty good deal. Like if you bought in a house that was fully updated in those neighborhoods, but prices went up so much, so you can go to other better neighborhoods, buy the same quality of home or the same type of home as fixed up and pay the same price. It just made no sense. The problem that a lot of times the income in those communities is not as high, so it won't sustain when prices start going up. So unfortunately, I see a lot of people that bought in the last few years are being negative in their equity. So you want to do the opposite. You want to buy the ugliest house in the nice neighborhood if you want to be more insulated in case their prices drop, to build equity faster. Definitely want to do that. All right, guys, number three is buying the biggest house on the block. Problem with that is that when you go to some of these older neighborhoods where houses were a little bit more custom, sometimes you're going to see a 4,000 square foot home in the middle of a neighborhood that has mostly 1,800 to 2,500 square foot homes. So you're never going to get the most value for that when you're deciding to sell, just because it's harder to find comps. And even if you find comps, maybe a mile or 2 miles away, they're not going to give you the full value because it's not in that community. And because of that community having smaller homes, it is going to pull your price down a little bit. So it's just something to consider unless you get a great price, right? Number four is buying houses with really bad unpermitted additions. Here in Arizona, a lot of the older communities, you're going to see houses with unpermitted additions. And the problem with that is that sometimes they cut a lot of corners because there's no inspections. Sometimes they do it themselves. They might not have all the skills when it comes to building a structure. So you're going to have water leaks, you have foundation issues. I mean, I've seen rooms with an inch crack on the wall just because the foundation's falling apart. So just want to be careful with that, because even if you buy a house with 4 bedrooms, and let's say that 4th bedroom is an unpermitted addition, you might have an issue when you get it appraised, and when you're thinking about selling, they might not give you the full value. Or if you start having issues in the future, I mean, you can't, there's no warranty on that. Number 5, homes with terrible floor plans. Trust me, I don't know if you've ever been to a house where you walk into the living room and then you go to the kitchen, but to go to the kitchen, you got to go through a bedroom, or you have to go through a bathroom. Like, it's just, I've seen houses where they just seem like they just kept adding as they had more kids, and the house doesn't flow. Or you have a tiny little living room and you have this huge bedroom, and it's just like, how does that make any sense? So you just have to be careful when you buy these houses that are a little wonky, where the floor plan just doesn't make any sense. Sometimes where the market is super crazy, people will just pay whatever to get a house. And when you're thinking about selling and the market is slow like it is right now, people are gonna double, they're gonna question if they should buy your house or not, especially if you got other houses that are very nice size or if they have better floor plans. So just got to be careful with that. Number 6 is manufactured homes that are built prior to 1976. So I don't know if you're aware, but homes that are built prior to 1976, you cannot finance it. Well, at least not get an FHA or regular conventional loan. From what I heard, there are some loans out there, but normally they're higher interest rate or sometimes higher down payment. So a lot of times, for example, here in Phoenix, Arizona, 10 years ago, the market was a lot cheaper. So getting a manufactured home, sometimes maybe it would cost you 50, 60, 100,000. Some people have the cash to buy it, or they would, take a small loan, on other properties that had, now they would be able to finance it. But now these properties are worth 300, 400,000, and it's going to get harder for somebody to come up with 20% down payment and finance the rest. It just, when it becomes harder for somebody to be able to finance your property, you're going to have less competition. And if people have to jump through, bigger hoops, or, just have to come up with more cash, you're going to have less people competing for the house, and there's going to be less likely someone's going to want to offer you top dollars. So just got to be careful when you actually decide to buy a manufactured home that is built prior to 1976. The next one is condos with high HOA fees. So here in Phoenix, Arizona, the average that I've seen in condos is around 200 to, I don't know, the max is 400. Now, there are some condos in some of these higher rise buildings. I'm not even talking about luxurious buildings or, luxury. I'm talking about just regular high rise with some amenities. They have $900 worth of HOA fees. I've always noticed that those properties hardly go up in price. I mean, they will go up in price, but I've actually shown a couple properties in those communities, and I've noticed that they've been on the market for like a year. So they have to drop the price to a point where somebody's willing to come and buy it because the HOA fees is so expensive. And they could go to a luxury condo and pay, $900 and get a, better location, a lot more amenities, or just a nicer building. So if you're going to buy a condo with huge HOA fees, like I'm talking about $600 to $900, you got to make sure you get a good deal, and you got to make sure the amenities are pretty good and the building is nice. All right, number 8, homes with major structural issues. So sometimes I get risk takers, people that think they could take on these huge projects like foundation issues, major roof issues, mold, I don't know, just a lot of issues. And, they take on these projects and then they find out that they don't have enough capital, they don't have the skills, or they have to get permits to do certain work. And you can't just, fix it up. So a lot of times, I don't know if you ever noticed, you go to Zillow or in the MLS and you're going to find houses that were halfway done, or fixer-upper projects you can see that are halfway done, like they're down to the studs. A lot of times what happened is people took on these huge projects and ran out of cash. And now they got to sell that project at a discount to at least recover some of their money. So you don't want to be that person unless you got very deep pockets and you have a lot of skills, or someone that can do that for you. Otherwise, honestly, do not take on these huge projects. What I tell some people that are wanting to do some fixer-uppers is look for something we call like lipstick on a pig, where it needs maybe like paint, it needs, possibly a new kitchen. That might be a little bit of a big project, but it's not that bad. But or like it needs new flooring, exterior paint, yard work, things that you can do, or they're not gonna make the house not habitable. So if you take on a project like that, you can do it as you're living in the property. I've seen some of my clients get tons of equity, and they keep doing it, and they're just very successful when it comes to that. All right, guys, and number 9, homes on main roads. I mean, if I drive down 51st Avenue, 43rd Avenue, or like for example Bell Road, I'm always gonna see these holes on backyard fences. Like, so there's, back in the days, they used to build houses where your backyard's fence was right next to the main road. So there's always these car accidents where people lose control, or at night people are drunk, they're driving super fast, they lose control and they run into your fence. Sometimes they go all the way to your home, or they fall into your pool. I see that all the time. And I do have people that are, let's say we go look at a beautiful home at a great price, even though it makes sense, the fact that they're in front of our main road or behind a main road will make him question that purchase. And we always see, well, not always, but especially in this market, we'll see those houses last longer to sell, and they'll have to drop the prices more. So if you're looking to buy a house and it's on the main road and you got little ones, you got pets, you like to do, like events, barbecue, like you got to be careful. All right, guys, number 10 is homes on leased land. So you'll find that in certain areas where they're close to some of the reservations. Also, the Arizona government, the state government, a couple years ago, or actually it's been been a while since they started doing it. They started doing buildings on leased land. That way it would be more affordable for the builders to build these affordable homes. People be able to buy and pay less for them. It's just that what you need to consider is that, yes, you'll probably get a good deal and get a lower price, but when you're thinking about selling it, there's going to be people who are going to question if they should, like, anything that looks weird, that looks out of the ordinary, people will question. And a lot of people don't like to mess with that, especially if there's 20 other homes in your area that are maybe just a little bit more, and at least it won't have to deal with leased land, with the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the next couple of years. Can things change? Am I going to be able to sell my house for, the price that I'm buying it for? So leased land, I mean, you're going to get, I've seen a difference of 100,000 on some of these homes, or, maybe less, maybe 70, 50, but it's just the uncertainty in this slow market will hurt you. All right, guys. So if you're buying in Arizona, please avoid these 10 mistakes. Look for homes with good resale value, great location, and no hidden headaches. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe if you want to get more tips about Arizona market. Drop a comment and tell me what mistakes you've seen. And if you're looking to move to Arizona or buy a house in Arizona, please click on the link below. We'll schedule a call and we'll find the perfect house for you. I am Juan Ramirez, Arizona real estate agent, and I'm out.